This is Chatterboxing with Sean. I want to talk about the big fight next weekend, Kell Brook against Terence Crawford. Now, when this fight was first being talked about, I was a little bit sceptical. I said if they make it at light middleweight, brilliant, love it. But if he's going to be at welterweight, not really sure that Kell Brook can make that weight healthily, put in the kind of performance over 12 rounds that you would need to beat someone like Terence Crawford. Obviously, there are question marks going into it. We all know what they are. But one thing I would say is that I've been seeing videos like on Instagram and stuff of Kell Brook for quite a while now, looking like he's in decent shape. Now, that hasn't always been the case in the past. You've seen him, he's blown up quite a lot. Now, I'm hoping that he's learnt his lesson from all that time where, he's taken a few shortcuts, eating the wrong things, maybe not getting the right amount of rest, just not taking it as seriously as he could have done. And obviously that has been a bit of a theme throughout his career. Now, he's had trouble making the weight for a very long time. Before that was a factor going into the Golovkin fight. Now, obviously that was a terrible mistake, fighting Golovkin, in most people's opinion. But he got a load of money out of it, made a good name for himself, but it wasn't a good idea. He got injured badly, lost his unbeaten record. So that was obviously in most people's eyes a bad move at that time. But the weight issues have been going on for a long time, and you've seen regularly, like as the fight progresses, he starts to lose quite a bit of energy. Now he cannot afford to be like that in this fight. The thing with Terence Crawford, for me, his best asset, aside from all, obviously he's got very good skills, he's very athletic, versatile, etc., etc. But for me, his main asset really is his will to win, his desire. He's not someone that's going to back down. He's not someone that is going to give up easily. He's a real bad man, Crawford. He's not going to be. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to break his will, like very, very difficult. That's what I've seen from him throughout his whole career. So he's going to get stronger as the fight goes on, and he's going to get more aggressive. And he's just going to really get a bit more vicious. So if Kell Brook is running out of energy, that's going to be a problem. Also, the desire, as I say, the desire of Crawford, is just second to none, I think. So Kell Brook needs to be in a position where he feels like he could have done better with his career. Don't get me wrong, he's had a very good career, but for me, I think if he'd have been as disciplined as someone like Carl Froch or Terence Crawford or Anthony Joshua or Mayweather or someone like that, he could have been one of the best British fighters ever, I think. Or definitely like this era, he could have been easily one of the best. I mean, you could argue he is one of the best, but I think he could have been one of the best fighters to come out of Britain for a long time, comparing him with people like Lennox Lewis, Joe Calzaghe, like that kind of level, if he'd had that discipline and the opportunities. So I'm just hoping that he can really put it all together for this fight, have the real desire, have the real focus, and just have that point to prove, because he's got the tools to do it. And if he has, then I think he can beat Crawford. I think it's going to be very difficult because I rate Crawford extremely highly. I think people talk about they try and play down his record, like the amount of people he's fought. I think that's overstated in my opinion. Like at welterweight, it's not been amazing, but it's not been that bad either. But coming up, he's been 3-weight world champion, undisputed champion. He's been lineal champion at various times. He's basically fought everyone there is to fight in all the divisions he's been in until welterweight. And obviously, as a welterweight, you've got the political barriers with him and PBC, and that's what's prevented him so far from getting those big fights. And he has fought some good fighters along the way. People like Postol, Gamboa, back then, at that time was good. Felix Diaz. There's lots of people along the way who he's got a pretty. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's an all-time great CV, but it's definitely not as bad as people say. And as I say, got a very, very iron will, basically. And he's just got a natural fighter's nastiness about him. And like he'll just go in there and he'll want to do you damage, and he's not going to back down. So that is the most difficult thing to come against, isn't it? Let's be honest, in a fight. Then when you consider that he's extremely skillful, he's got very quick feet. He can box southpaw, orthodox on the outside. He can fight on the inside. His defence is probably it's not great. People say he doesn't have like a great chin. I mean, I haven't seen that much evidence of that. I mean, he's kind of been wobbled a little bit here and there. But to be honest, I compare him quite a lot to Tyson Fury in many ways, in terms of the style, the versatility, the will to win, and also the sort of ring IQ. He's got very high intelligence as well, but also just the sense that if you do hurt him, it's almost counterproductive because then he'll just come back at you like more. He just bites down the gum shield and then he goes for you. So I've never really seen him get hurt and then like sort of go on the back foot, kind of, and then get hurt again. And I've just maybe seen him get wobbled a little bit, hurt a bit, and then he's like, right, let's have it. And he'll come in, and then it becomes more difficult for the opponent. So yeah, and he's on top of his game right now. Right? He's got something to prove as well because he's. I mean, I think he's a bit underappreciated in America, to be honest. Because for me, they've got some good fighters, but he is the number one. There's no question. Like in terms of what he's achieved right now, and the consistency of him doing it, also the performances he puts on in the ring. He's the number one fighter in America. Well, right now you'd have to say after Lomachenko just lost, because most people were saying it was between Crawford, Lomachenko, and Canelo. So I think most people now, because of all the sort of question marks around Canelo, all the the sort of the advantages that he has. Most people, I would say, put Crawford now as like the number one. So but I think he does have something to prove. I think he's got a little bit. He's pissed off a little bit with the situation in America, not being able to get the fights that he wants. Obviously, his main rival, Errol Spence. Errol Spence came to the UK and beat Kell Brook a couple of years ago. So there's that common opponent. He's going to really want to go in there and put on a statement. So yeah, and I'm just hoping that Kell Brook is in the same mindset. There's a few things to talk about. Now he's not going to be with Dominic Ingle. Now I don't really know what to make of that. What Dominic Ingle was saying about the sort of COVID and the sort of lockdown stuff. I mean, I can understand that. I'm in a sort of similar position myself. So I'm in Spain and I was going to go to England. I'm a bit not really sure where I can be, and do you know what I mean? You don't really want to get trapped in certain places, the uncertainty. So that does kind of make sense. It could be a case of money. He's asking for too much money. I mean, if that's the case, then you could say it doesn't bode too well. I mean, I don't know anything about the other coach, so it's difficult really to say. But from the outside looking in, it would be, you'd think, well, it'd be better if he was with a coach that knew him and like he's got a proven track record with him. But that could all add to the sort of the siege mentality of it with Kell Brook, like not having the coach there that he's normally with, not having like Matchroom and Sky Sports backing him, not having a load of fans there backing him, everyone writing him off. He could just go in there just like with a real like just the sheer fuck offness of the whole thing. Just wanting to go in there and just have that real like back to the wall, let's fucking have it mentality. And if he has, then yeah, it's going to be an amazing fight. Now I think that Kell Brook needs to impose himself on Crawford early. It's going to be interesting to see because the style that Kell Brook has and the style that Terence Crawford had, both of them quite versatile. I mean, Kell Brook's a little bit less so because Crawford, like, he can just do basically everything. Kell Brook can do quite a lot of stuff, but you don't really know exactly what you get. He can fight well at range, counter punch. He can get on the inside and like basically just physically like strong and push you about. And so it's quite difficult to predict how the fight's going to go. I mean, you've got to fancy Crawford as a favourite just based on the momentum, based on the sort of the accumulation of injuries that Kell Brook's had. I mean, they've both been out of the ring for quite a long time. And I think when was Crawford's last? Was it Mean Machine? That was a while ago. Kell Brook, probably similar time, but that was against, I can't remember the bloke's name. That was light middleweight. So yeah, and obviously the lack of fans. That's an interesting one as well. Because Kell Brook is used to, obviously being from the UK, he's used to a kind of quite high charged, passionate atmosphere with a lot of pissed up, rowdy people like shouting and singing, and so it's going to be very different for him. But at the same time, Terence Crawford, particularly for like an American, I'd say compared to like most American, from what I've seen anyway, compared to most American atmospheres, the fans in Omaha seem to be quite vocal, quite a good atmosphere. And I remember he went to, I can't remember, I always remember him fighting against some bloke in Las Vegas. I think it was might have been Thomas Delaunay, or I can't remember, some other, it was some other American. And Terence Crawford brought a load of fans to Las Vegas, and they were like creating a good atmosphere, basically like the UK style. So he's got that kind of he's used to quite a lot of energy and quite a lot of passionate support as well. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how it affects him. Turns out like the prediction for what things going to happen. I mean, obviously I'm a massive Kell Brook fan, and I'm really hoping that he can do it. Um, but it's going to be difficult. If he can really like do everything perfect, rise to the occasion, maintain his fitness throughout, and basically put it on Terence Crawford. I think if he goes for him, I think he's got a decent chance of winning it. But I think Terence Crawford is rightly the favourite. And yeah, unfortunately, and I really, really hope I'm wrong, I think that Terence Crawford is going to win probably by a stoppage, just due to the situation with the eyes. I know he says they're basically better than ever. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's true. I'm assuming that it isn't, basically. I hope it is. But yeah, unfortunately, that's what I think is most likely to happen. But it's still a good fight, and I think Kell's got a decent chance. So yeah, hopefully I'm wrong. And if he does beat Terence Crawford, then get the Errol Spence rematch. Presumably that would happen I'd imagine that probably happened in America. Now Errol Spence would be obviously he's beaten Kell Brook already. He will, if he provided he beats Danny Garcia and keeps his world titles, he's got 2 world titles. So he would be the A side going into it. He's already been to England, so I imagine they'd probably put it on America because he's been on pay-per-view now as well. The last couple of fights, he's becoming like quite a big star over there. So they put the fight in America. If that happened, and we got like fans back, I'd be quite up for going out to watch that one, travelling out there. But yeah, one step at a time. Let's deal with Crawford first. If Crawford wins, then no more messing about. It's got to be Spence Crawford. Now I know Crawford and Errol Spence both said they'd like to fight Manny Pacquiao, and to be honest, I don't blame them, because it was a bit like when Joshua wanted to fight Klitschko at that point, because he's like, this is a legend who's not going to be here much longer, and if I don't fight him now, then that's my last opportunity. So I don't blame them for wanting to get that name on their record. But if I was Manny Pacquiao, I would just say, well, fight each other, and I'll fight the winner for undisputed. Why would I fight like one, unless you're going to pay me just ridiculous money? I've been putting in the work for years, been fighting like top fighter just consistently. You two, Crawford has done a lot, to be fair. I mean, Spencer's unified champion. I'm not saying he hasn't done a lot, but compared to Manny Pacquiao, these two need to do a bit more work. And if I was him, if I was managing him, I'd just say, well, you two fight each other, do a bit of the lifting, and then I'll fight the winner for undisputed. That's what I would do, and hopefully not, because hopefully Crawford doesn't win this fight, but if he does, hopefully Pacquiao decides to do that. And then we can see Spence against Crawford. Just find out who the best man is. So yeah, I'd say really looking forward to it. Really hope Kell can pull it off. But I just think Crawford is on top of his game. He's got the more momentum, and he is pretty special. So yeah, and with all the situation with, I think it's going to be a late stoppage for Crawford. I reckon as well with no referees, no crowd. It kind of makes it more likely for the referee to step in as well. It's more brutal, isn't it? If you just see it, there's no like other noise. It's just really. Well, we'll see. But yeah, let me know what you lot think. Thank you very much for watching.